everyone, welcome to my channel. This is Emily at the Coloring Oasis. Today I'm going to do a testing and review of two new types of Ohuhu markers that I have picked up. These are water-based markers, not the alcohol markers or the Maui series thin alcohol markers. I did a mega Ohuhu educational video maybe a month or two ago that covers all the different sets except for these, all the different Ohuhu, Oahu, Honolulu, Molokai, Lanai, Kaala series. How can you get all the colors, how they work in different books. I'll try to link that video below. I did not include these because I didn't have them at the time. Oh, and I also covered the acrylic paint pens of Ohuhu. So these are extremely affordable. You have 60 colors here, and these have the chisel nib and a really thin, sturdy brush nib. The ones with the flamingo on it, and all these are my favorite that I tried. And this one I actually haven't tried, but I looked at the ends. This is 60 colors, and it has a fine point and a wider brush tip, more like on a Tombow brush pen. And they come in these nice little cases. They're swatch cards. They are only like $21.99 each on Amazon right now. So I'm going to try them out on a few different papers. Water-based markers are hit and miss for coloring books. I'm going to tell you right up front that you cannot use these on a typical Amazon paper coloring book, which would be something similar. Let me show you, to like the books that are $6.99, right? Like the Deborah Muller standard paper, the Coco Wayo, the Jade Summer type books that have this paper that's really, thin. You can almost see your hand through. These are not good whatsoever for water-based pens, so don't do it. I have seen some bad reviews. I read every single review on these products, and I could identify the people saying, doesn't work for coloring books, doesn't work for coloring books. Some of them, and some of them say it's amazing. The difference is the paper they're using, because they show a picture and I can see it's doing like streaking, and I can actually recognize the picture of the artist who they're doing it in. So the paper is what matters, and the technique, not the marker. So keep that in mind. So I'm going to try it in a Deborah Muller Artist Edition from her Etsy shop, which is a thicker mixed media paper. I'm going to try it on that. It's more cardstocky. I'm going to try a Mythographic book, and a Joanna Basford book, and a Eriy book. I think this is the literature book, actually. We're going to see which ones bleed through. They're not supposed to. Really depends on how thin your paper is, because if it's thin enough, you'll see anything through it. Doesn't matter what it is. And I'm going to see if any of them work with a water brush. Typically, right on the paper with a water brush, it doesn't work as well as like with a watercolor pencil, unless you're going to put some of that marker onto like a watercolor palette, dip water in, and then put it on like a paint. I'm going to see what it's like to just color straight up with them. So let's get started. And by the way, I've reviewed many products on here, and I only ever review products I buy for myself that I want to use or try or think I might want to use. And I have given many negative reviews of many products, honestly, on here. Now, I always point out the pros and the cons. If there are no pros whatsoever after I've made the video and I discover it, I often don't share the video because I don't want to totally tank or trash anybody's business. But I am aware that as an artist that different products work different on different papers with different techniques, and oftentimes it's the user that is the error in the situation. So Ohuhu is a really good brand. They have amazing alcohol markers. I use the Honolulu 320, I guess, set for, plus the pastel set for my tutorials I'm working on. And the Kaala series is amazing. So let's get started. So I'm going to start first with this one that I like. That is the one I did look at. I tried it really quick on here. I wrote howdy. This is actually my Nina paper, which is the paper I use for Etsy printables most of the time. It's not my express blending card, which is that really glossy, shiny for like high quality, like Copic markers and stuff. This is more like, it doesn't have a shine to it. It's not great generally for water mediums. Like I would only color tiny little areas with it. This Nina paper can tear with water mediums. So, but I wanted to write on them more like calligraphy with that fine point. And you can see I did these two and it was perfect, didn't bleed through. So that's a good sign. That's something else I was trying there. So the markers on this one, water-based, vibrant colors, non-toxic, drawing, calligraphy, and more. So we have a little color card, which doesn't always mean much because the actual colors on paper don't look often like the card, but it gives you an idea. So this is what you get. All these pretty colors. They're not, I think they're little, do I have a regular Ohuhu here? Ohuhu, where are you? I know I do somewhere. Oh. I guess I don't. Anyway, the regular Ohuhu is round. This is a little, not quite as chunky. It's a little thinner, but not as thin as something like a Tombow water brush pen, if you can see the difference. Oh, I do have an Ohuhu right here. Here's a standard Ohuhu alcohol marker. Now you can see the difference. This one's a little fatter. Okay, so here we have that nice thin brush tip, which gave me some nice control when I wrote that. And then on this end, we have the chisel nib. I also saw a few negative reviews on there about, oh, the brush nib, I don't remember if it was this one or the other one, after using for a month, it shreds or whatever. Yeah, any base water medium, even a Tombow pen, brush nibs are delicate. You can't color larger surfaces really with a water-based marker. You know, if I have, let's get my books here. Let's take a look. So here's some stuff I was testing. If I want to do the whole big flower, this whole big flower, even bigger, like some people do huge sections, coloring in these water-based markers, and that pressure over time, doing big strokes back and forth, will fray. It will fray. That is normal. That's what happens. So you have to know the technique of how to use them. You use them for smaller things like this size or smaller, even smaller like this maybe. You can't just, you know, whoosh, whoosh. Like, yeah, it's going to fray the ends. Same with Copic markers, and those are amazing, the most popular artist markers for professionals. So, all right, so this is the Joanna Basford's World of Flowers. This is a page I've tested on stuff before. So I'm going to try, let's get a red, a purple, and a blue. And they are not, they're numbered but not color. There's no name, which is fine. These are technically their budget line for water-based markers. And I'll look on, see, this is a 12. See here, the 12 on here looks really dark. Look at that. One's like, this is like a cherry red. That looks like a firehouse brick. So don't go by that. Anyway, so let's move over to like over here. And so because this is more fine, like it's longer and narrower than the brush nib on the other one, I would choose areas that have a thinner, and maybe not even something as wide as that. I'd use the other one for that. So I might do something like these areas here. And I'm pulling it over. I'm not coloring like with a crayon, which is how you end up fraying those ends. You basically touch and pull. Okay? Touch and pull. We'll look at, see if these go through in a minute. Let's do the purple. So I'm going to do, let's do, I want to make sure you can see all this on camera here. I think you can. And I'll try to zoom in after. So for example, let's do here, the exterior of this leaf. Okay, so I can tell you right now that the brush tip is not bending or smushing. It's pretty sturdy. And I'm not pushing hard. I'm touching lightly and I'm pulling it. So dab and pull, down and pull, down and pull. You don't push, pressure, you don't color with it. You know, a lot of, it's unfortunate because for a lot of art products, it's a lot of beginners are using them. They don't understand what they're doing. They don't understand that certain papers work different with certain mediums, and they don't understand technique with the medium, with the paper. And so some of these products, all kinds of brands get negative reviews, but then you see like what they say in the paper they're using from the photos they post, and you're like, oh, they don't know what they're doing. It's really unfortunate. And I'd say with these, I'd say 85% or positive reviews on these products, but look how nice and bold that is. Of course, I just went outside the lines. Let's see if we were going to do like the inside right here. So this is giving me a nice control. It's not bending in a narrow area to where I feel like I'm going to go over. And another trick is with water-based markers, when you're doing narrow areas, small areas, you're not going to see the same streaking. You know, water-based markers like this one will streak when you're doing large surfaces. That's the benefit of doing smaller surfaces with water-based markers. You use alcohol markers or other things for bigger areas. So let's look at this blue. Let's just do a small leaf right here. And this is actually going on a little big. We'll see if it streaks. I'm going to pull. And this is direct coloring on the paper. We're not even using water, like water. All right. I'm going to go over it here, darken it. Perfect. See, I didn't see any streak. Maybe the first layer I saw a teeny bit, so I went over it really quick before it dried, and it was nice and bold. So let's look at the back. Okay. So that was here. I see purple. I do see that purple right here. It's a really dark color though, right there. The red one, I don't see the red one. What was the other one I did? Oh, down here. Oh, and I do not see this one, which is on the other side where my finger is here. I don't see these ones down here. I went over that multiple times, but sometimes it can be a water spot. When it dries, it lightens up. So we'll go back and look at that and see. Let's try another color, like let's try pink. I'm going to actually fill in the inside of this leaf here. And if you have a small area that's a little more wide than like the strips we did on this barrier, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3. I'm going to fill it in pretty quickly. Okay, so let's do like this. The trick is to stop touching it. One quick layer, a second quick layer, and let it sit. The more times you go over it, dab at it, the more you're going to see like a streak or a different splotchy gradient of color, that kind of thing. Let's see, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. I did 4 swipes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Touched it up again. Let it sit. Don't keep going over it. You're going to get the streaks. So that is probably the maximum area I would do with a water-based marker. Maximum, like these more finer leaves. These bigger, chunkier ones, I probably wouldn't. These big petals, definitely not. This book is huge. It's like taking up way too much space on my desk. So let me go up here and show you up close. You can see that it's nice. These are nice, bold, rich colors, but again, paper and technique, like I'm telling you. So let's try one more color and then we'll go on to the next book. We're going to try a yellow, bright yellow. Now, the lighter the color is, you can sometimes get away with a little bit of a bigger area because you're not going to see any kind of streaking or water-based gradient as much. So I'm going to give it a stab at this one here, which is probably the biggest I would go. And I'm going to pull all in one direction. And then I'm going to stop. See? You can't even see. I mean, I'm right here in front of it. I can see like a white spot or two. So again, the trick is to set it down and pull, set it down and pull. Don't go back and forth. Don't do it like coloring with a pencil like this or with an alcohol marker. You can't get away with any of that stuff. It's one direction, like the band, one direction. Okay. Let's go. I think that's a band, right? Not really my cup of tea, but let's look here at the yellow. Do not see the yellow. That purple is still there, that dark, dark purple. So in that case, see, none of this other stuff I've been testing in videos the last few months shows through. Here's one we just did. I cannot see the pink right here. Here's my finger around the other side. You can't see the pink. The yellow, can't see. So a really dark color that's closer to a black, like this dark, dark blue, this dark, dark purple, you might see a little bit through if you really don't want even a tint of anything going through. Now, I'm not a fan of doing water-based markers with actual water brushes most of the time. I use pencils for that. We can try it because it can curl your paper. We can try it real quick. Let's do the darker pink and the lighter pink. Let's just try something. I have here my Arteza water brush pen. You fill it with, mine's about empty. I fill it with water, but make sure there's water in it. Let's see, can I get enough out for this? I got enough out for one, maybe. All right, so we're gonna do a little blending. I don't do a lot of blending with water-based markers either, but let's just take like, this one here. Let's just do the first half in this darker and really quick before things dry. Oh no, that was the lighter one. See, I just did it in reverse. Let's go up here then. Go down with the darker one in that direction. Now let's take the water brush and just see what happens. Actually, if I get some on my brush, can I go put it over here? Yeah, a little bit. It is functioning a little bit like a watercolor. I'm getting it on the brush and I'm tinting it over here. That's actually not bad. So I don't know if you can see that. So let's dab on a couple more color dots and see if we can liquidate that. Doesn't really remove the dot fully, but it's darkening it. So I'm smoothing it this way. That's interesting. Oh, look at that. Straight on through. It's because of the water. The water really activates the dyes and then it does bleed through. Well, this is a water stain. That'll go away. And we are using with that really dark pink. So if you wanted to do it on a paper, you don't care about bleed through. I don't care about these because these are all my testing pages. Again, I don't use a lot of water brush in my stuff, but you could do that if you wanted. I mean, I didn't even put any color on there except for those dots. I got this wet and I put the color on. Now it's a baby pink. So it does work. But I tend to just do dry small areas of coloring when I do my water brush markers. That's just me. Well, let's go on to another paper then. Okay. Leave that open to dry. I'm gonna take a bite of my soup. I've been trying to eat my lunch for 3 hours. I'm always busy. All right, let's try Mythographic. Mythographic it's a better paper than standard Amazon paper. It's kind of thin. I want to do a test on a picture. I don't think I would want to color. This is definitely not one I would want to color. Just in case I'm going to get a divider page to protect it. Actually, that's not flat enough. Let's go more toward the front. See if I can find something. It doesn't look like I'd want to color it at all. Well, this is a nice book, actually. Oh, this one I don't really care for. Giant snail. I hate snails. Okay, I'm going to put a divider page just in case. This page is a little more bright white. It's not as brighter white paper is more likely to see something through, especially if there's, water spots. But let's see. And this paper feels a little more smooth. The Joanna Basford paper has a little more tooth to it. So Again, different mediums work different on different papers. I'm sure this blue will go through that we did before, but there's a bluish periwinkle. Let's do this. I'm going to do this little flower. Okay. Let's do one more here. Going all in one direction. Nice and vibrant. Go over this one more time, even though, yeah, I mean, it's looking a little more vibrant on here than Joanna Bassford because the paper is more white, so the colors will look more brilliant, like a brilliant jewel tone. Let's try the red. One direction. Let's do one over here. I'm gonna go over it one more time, 3 stripes. That's it. It almost feels a little more, I want to say dry. I mean, obviously it's a marker, but like it's drying faster almost, if that makes sense. Let's do the pink. Going sideways, I don't know why. Okay. Let's let that dry. Let's do the yellow. Let's go like over here. I do this whole little flower in the yellow because you can do it pretty quick. Now I can tell you all these tips are very firm. They're not bending. There's no reason this should fray. It's too firm. And if you use a light pressure and only dab or stripe on a small areas, that should never do that. Okay, so that is light enough. It covers the whole thing. I don't see anything that tells me it's a water marker versus an alcohol marker. Lastly, I had this other purple. Let's try a green. Let's try a bright green, which is actually also a darker green. And do a leaf. It's a little big, but I'm going to go this direction. Okay. Go this direction. This one's definitely streaking more. I'm going to go over it one more time. After you let dry for about 10-20 seconds, then go over it one more time. It's less likely to streak if it's still a little wet and you're going over it multiple times. That's when you're going to get the blotchiness of streaking. If you let it dry 10 seconds, 20 seconds, then put another coat on, you're going to get a more solid coat. Okay. So that looks fine. Let's try one more color in a bigger area. Let's try an orange. Here's a nice orange color. Let's do like, I can show you like on something like this wing. This is bigger than I would normally do, but I'm going to follow it, all the lines down. This is really vibrant, actually. I'm surprised how vibrant it is. Okay, I did, I filled it in one layer, I'll let it sit for a minute. It's a nice bright pumpkin, vibrant orange. I can see a little bit of like watermark, and you feel a texture, which is actually, Mythographic paper isn't great for any water pens. They're really great for alcohol markers and pencils. So I would do very sparing, like small things, but you can feel, versus this is smooth. Now this feels kind of bumpy, like it's taking up a little paper. It's probably dry enough. We can go over it one more time. One direction. There we go. I mean, it looks like a nice solid orange. It's not going to look quite as seamless as your Copic. Here's an alcohol marker, or an Ohuhu alcohol marker. Like for example, this is an orange Copic I have right here. I mean, it feels like night and day. This feels, they don't streak. It feels buttery smooth. When it has alcohol in it, right? And it evaporates. And this would be similar to the Ohuhu alcohol markers. Completely looks different. Alexa, stop. If I were to touch it, paper, it feels still like the paper, like it doesn't feel like there's anything on there. If you feel this, it's rigid, it's a little bumpy, there's texture. So that's the difference with the water-based and alcohol marker. Let's look at the back. I'll bet you they all went through, but whoa. Only the orange. What is that? That's this. Oh no, that's my alcohol marker that went through, which obviously the water one didn't. Look at that. I'm surprised. My finger's on it. That one did not go through. This did. What is this? This is which color? A few of them did. I'm guessing that's the red or the blues, the dark ones. And it was very pale. That surprised me. So anything on the medium to lighter hue doesn't seem to. Like, let's try a peach coral color. Let's just do her face. Not what I would normally do skin tone is. I'm gonna let it dry for a minute. Okay. Doesn't show. See that? So the medium to lighter tones don't bleed through Mythographic, which I don't think they really did either on the Joanna paper. All right, so that's Mythographic, and let's test on Eriy's books. Now we know that Eriy's paper is pretty thick. Gosh, this is a really important book, so I don't want to do any. I hate to do any kind of test in here on something. I guess we could do something like this, like with some of the little details, maybe. I don't want that to go through because I am working on something on the other side, which is the dolls in pencil, Color It brand pencils. All right. Okay, so let's do, this is a thicker paper. It's more of cream. Everyone knows it has more to it. It feels more rough. So we shall see. We're going to do the medium pink. Let's just do a couple flowers. That's strange. See, I can tell you right now. So if you're trying to learn, grow your skills and whatnot, I want you to take water-based marker, 3 different kinds of coloring book paper, a standard Amazon inexpensive one like a Camille, what's her name, Camille Angelkova or Deborah Muller or Hannah Lynn, a heavy quality paper, maybe a printable paper, 4 different kinds of papers from different kinds of books. I want you to take the same water marker. I want you to go back to back and test them all, and they feel different. So this one was light. It was airy. I don't think it could streak if I wanted it to. It's thicker. It's porous, so it's absorbing the into the pores the ink. It feels like it went on easier. It's really amazing actually how paper and medium has a lot to do with performance. Here's the bright orange. I guess this will be a bright bouquet. Yeah, it's like I'm barely touching the paper. Like it's barely even making contact, and it's just sucking up the juice of the marker, so to speak. It's like really a good match. This might even have more characteristics of something like that you get in a watercolor paper. Could be why. That's why a lot of people do use some like watercolor pencils and stuff in Eriy books. Tap it where I missed. And whew, thank goodness it didn't go through. That was risky. I'm afraid to try my dark one on here because I don't want to wreck that picture. I'll do the yellow. Look, I can go over all these petals in a bigger, like, I'm actually doing the thing I don't generally do, which is the back and forth. And it's really not leaving much in the way of, well, this is the light color, but I don't see any streaks at all. So let's do the, I don't want to, none of these went through, so that's amazing. I don't want to risk. Is there an area where I could risk a little bleed through? Maybe where I would do a dark roof, like, or where I could do something dark on both sides so I can cover it up. Gosh. Okay, the books maybe. The book, the suitcase could be dark, and the bear could be, okay, I guess we'll pray. Well, let's try dark brown. At least it's a color that I would work. I'm gonna try a dark brown. I'm gonna get right in this corner. So there's some animals, which the suitcase would be brown as well, so that'll work. Okay. If it does bleed through, I'm gonna get his hind legs. In this case, I am pulling it because it's a bigger area. So it's more likely to leave some streaks, but we're mostly testing for bleed through. This is still a bigger area than I would normally do, but the whole bear, but if you're doing like one leg at a time. I do want to say that water-based markers like this are great for basing and then letting it dry and then going over with pencils. That pencil should always be like one shade darker than what's in the pen, but water-based markers are good even if they do let them have streaks or you do allow them to streak. If you're going to go over with pencil, the streaking doesn't matter so much. In fact, that gives it kind of a nice like layer of lowlights and highlights under the pencil. So I'm going to pull. A second later, it's getting darker. I let it dry first. That's surprisingly, it looks pretty good, actually. This is good paper. So then we're going to try the Deborah Muller Artist Edition next. Let's just see what happened. It did not go through. Look at that. It's a little, like a little tiny warp spot from like the water. Okay, so that's good. So in the Eriy paper, which is more of a toothy paper, might be something more you did water mediums with, it didn't go through. So that, even the dark color, I mean, and the light ones certainly didn't. Okay, so that's good to know. Next, let's try the Deborah Muller Artist Edition. I use alcohol markers on this because they're gorgeous. I've done a ton of pictures in here, as you can see. Let's try this. I'm going to turn it sideways so you can see better. This is, again, the Artist Edition, which is available on her Etsy shop, not on Amazon. On Amazon, the same book, and this is the Hot Summer Girls or whatever. Or is it Hot Summer Girls? What is this book? Something Summer Girls. Summer Girls. I've done a ton of you. Why don't I know the name? Girls of Summer. Yeah. The Amazon edition will be the inexpensive paper you do not want to use water-based mediums on unless you have a tiny, like some polka dots or something. Okay. Let's get the orange and do some blanket stripes. Definitely feels more dry. This again is a bigger area, a little bigger than I would normally do. Let's give that a second. I'm gonna go over with the yellow thing next to it. Try that pink again, darker pink. This is a really smooth paper. That's why it's great for alcohol markers. It's smooth and shiny. So those aren't always the best for water mediums. I'm still feeling the texture. So you see that? I went over it the second time and then I hit the Eriy 3 times. It took up a bit of paper. I can actually got it on my finger. You see like a little bit of ripped paper right there. Yeah, and a real lumpy, bumpy texture. And a little bit went through, barely. So yeah, this is what I expected. Not the best water-based paper. I'm gonna do the yellow stripe. A really light color, you wouldn't have to go over as much. So you might be able to get away with it, but more layers is going to make you more likely to take up the... Oh, yeah, see, it's feeling really rough and bumpy. And, oh, I can feel, like when you're a kid, you know, in school, you make that paper paste. It feels like that. It's already taking it up. Oh, there's crumbs, too. That did not happen on any of the other paper. So this is what I expected. Not good at all. I don't think for at least these particular pens. I'm going to take my Copic alcohol marker. You can see complete opposite. Juicy, amazing. Blends like magic. Doesn't streak. I mean, you can't go wrong. It's the same with the Ohuhu. This is a Copic, but so you see the difference. Yeah, and this is, oh, that orange. Oh no, that's my alcohol marker. Duh. Yeah, I mean, if we were to do like a tiny little area with that pink, like, let's do like one partial pink stripe. Well, that's even too big. Let's do a pink star. Eriy, you don't have to go over. Then you could just touch it and be done with one layer. Now, theoretically, I did one layer. I could just stop, let dry, and then do all the stars. And I can take a pink pencil that's a little bit darker and go over them all. It would be amazing. That color did not, well, did not go through, but yeah, so I'm feeling smooth, little texture, smooth, not as much as over here, the second layer. So it didn't tear up any paper with one layer. Now, one layer though is more likely to make it look a little blotchy or streaky and not even. So I would only do one layer if you're going over it with pencil. So I think you can get away with a single layer in this kind of a book with pencil, probably. Yeah, like we could do on her bathing suit. Let's get this blue. I like markers because you can get the picture done faster. You can color everything and be done with it pretty quick. And you can do more pictures in a month. Versus pencil takes forever. And markers are vibrant, but I prefer alcohol markers. But pencils takes forever. The blending, getting the color, multiple layers. But a nice trick is to base with a water-based marker like this and then go over with pencil. And the pencil is 10 times faster and easier. And it still looks like a pencil technique and not a marker technique because the pencil kind of wax and shading is on the top. So I did one layer of each. Let's look. I don't really see it. I see a few pale circles, but I think that's the water, like water stains, and that will probably vanish when it dries, so that's good. This is the one that you could see the blue through on the other two pictures. And now it's still like smooth, a little bit of bumpy, but I would not do it twice. And if I were to just go over that with a pencil, do I have any pencils here? I have ink tins. That's not quite what we're looking for. That's a water pencil. Well, I have my Prismacolors here. Let's try it. I'm going to show you. Let's just get a dark bluish, purplish color on my Prismacolor case. Let's see. So that's, there's a Copenhagen blue. First of all, make sure it's dry before you do the pencil or it will just dent it. So I have a Prismacolor Copenhagen blue. This is a little darker. Feels dry enough. I'm going to just go right on over this. You could even do 2 shades darker. You could do like a little bit of a lighter marker and 2 shades darker pencil. So I'll show you every other one and you can see the difference. Now you can see now this pencil almost feels like a top coat and it goes over real smooth and fast. Versus if you were to put it straight on the paper. So you can see the difference. I'm going to zoom in so you can see here in a second. This may not be the best dark blue, but so if you did, so here we put it with the pencil. You can see which one had without and with. See, that one's darker, without and with. I know it's blurry when I zoom in. You can see the difference, and it's more solid and creamy, and it covers any streaking. So you can do a single layer, I would say, a Prismacolor. I'm sorry, single layer of the water-based marker with Prismacolor over the top on this paper. But I would not do 2 layers, or I would probably not leave it just with that color. All right, well, so that is in essence the Ohuhu 60 colors with the chisel and the narrow stiff brush nib, I guess you could say. What are you doing, Leo? Cat disaster. I mean, butternut squash soup, it's good. Let's go on to the next set of markers, okay? So, putting these back, don't want to mix them up. And we'll compare the other set it's a little bigger. They both have 60, but these are a little chunkier. And the shape is kind of more pointed than round. If you can see that difference. See that? And these, the ones we just did, were a little more thin. So let's pull out a pink, a blue. Are these colors, another thing is, are these colors the same? Oh, so that's interesting. So this says 17 pink. The new one, there's a 17 pink in the other one. This says 68 aqua green. There's a 68 in this one. Are they identical colors? Let's see. So 77 lilac, 77. Yeah, now the tips look different. Let's do, I think, 144, 144, 13. Okay, the numbers look identical. So I was not aware of that. I thought they'd be different colors. The difference is the different ends. So I'm going to compare these two and see if they look the same, one from each set, and then we're going to show you the different ends. And it really means that they're going to perform probably exactly the same, since they're just a different tip. The only difference is the tip. First of all, let's do these two purples. So we have one from the first set, and this is the new one. So this one has I'm going to compare the two. So this has a brush tip also, but look how much more wide it is. See what I mean? This is why this one was nice and controlled for narrow areas. This one's really wide, like a typical brush pen. The barrel is bigger on this one, a little chunkier. And it looks longer to me. Okay, I guess it is. Well, let's do side by side. So let's do, oh yeah. Okay, this is the new one. I'm doing one direction. Way bigger area than I would normally do. This is the Joanna Basford paper. I want to show you what happens when you do a big area, how it kind of streaks like that. I'm not sure if you can see that, but see how, I mean, it looks nice and vibrant, but it looks a little like splotchy, or some area looks lighter than the other kind of thing. Let's go ahead and Major bleed through, I think. Wait. No, wait, yes. Yeah, it is bleeding through. It's a dark color. I'm going to go over it again, all in the same direction. My second coat. This will eliminate some streak. Actually, this is surprisingly for a bigger area. I'm not seeing any streaks. Wow. The trick is to let that first coat dry, like I said, 20 seconds, maybe 30, and then do a second and only do the one direction and then stop. Don't keep touching it. Don't go back and forth. And it looks pretty solid. But anyway, I want to do the same marker in the smaller tip. Now, this was a bigger tip. Now, I can tell you it's bendy. By bendy, I mean you touch it, the tip is actually bending. So I think that's the one that I read that people were saying it frayed more because it's so juicy. People are tempted to do bigger areas and they're probably pushing too hard. This first one I did, I can't even apparently get the cap on. Oh, the first set with the, oh, and also the first set we did has the chisel nib. I don't know if I forgot to show you guys this, the chisel nib for wide areas. This one has the brush and that fine little bullet nib. That's the difference. Okay, so this was the one we did previously. I want to compare the colors, see if they're really the same. I'm not going to do the whole leaf, but I'll just do. So since this is more firm and smaller, you're not going to get as big a surface juicy effect as I did on that one. This is more for little areas, like I said. And it's definitely streaking more in a big area. I would say for sure that these are the exact same color. But now I am getting texture, but if you rub your paper, this is what I want you to do when you're trying out some markers on 4 or 5 of your own papers, trying out some water-based markers. Feel the paper before and then after. You can see that gives you some indicator of how well this color works on that paper. If it's too rough, risking starting to come up in little bits, too much texture, that means it's not a good paper for it. This is pretty decent for 2 layers. All right, so this area is definitely too big for this first marker I did. It's more for finely controlled smaller areas. Not as small as it's not as small as for the bullet nib, but it looks a little darker on that second layer too. And these ones have names, lilac. The other ones don't. Let's compare 2 more. I have the sky blue 176 and then a 76 in the other one. So let's just do them side by side. Here's the new one we're doing, the big one. Let's just do, and the small one. They look different. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. I don't understand that whatsoever. They're both water-based. They're both Ohuhu. They're the exact same numbers. The barrels look the same, and they look different on the paper. Okay. What I'm noticing is in this thin, skinny one that we did first, with the more controlled tip, of the same shade is coming across darker. So these 2 colors we did compared to these 2 colors on the other one, it's like they're the same color, but one's just a little darker. So look at these 2. That's the first one, the big one, the second one, and they both had 2 layers. These are the thin ones. The 2 thin ones come across darker. So it's almost like if you were to add 2 more layers to the first one, you would get that darkness. So I guess in essence, it doesn't really matter. Like if I were to take, this was the first one, the lighter one, and go over that again, now it's going to get darker. Now it's actually looks a little darker. Oh, no. Yeah. That's weird. Okay. Well, huh. I just surprised myself. So I guess what I'm thinking is, if you were to get the first set I showed you with these thin ones, with the more controlled pointed brush tip and the chisel, you might end up doing like a little more coat than you would if you're doing the first one. This was came across lighter with less layers. But if you're going over with pencil, I think it really comes down to what kind of control and nib you like. I feel like these are a little taller, probably just because of the tips. These have names, these don't, but the numbers are all the same. The shades are the same. The tone is a little different. So it's really the end. So like a chisel end. Let's look at a chisel end. Here's a chisel end of the fine point one. Now you can get a lot more surface with the chisel end. Now this is what you're not supposed to do, is go over multiple layers when it's still wet. That's where you're going to get streaks and bleed through like I just did. Okay. Now on this one, all you have is the fine point, right? So like, if you want to get some tiny little spaces, I guess. I hate the fine point ones. I've never used them because I don't like a lot of little coloring things. But like if you're doing like, let's say these little things right here, and you wanted to use the pointed end, I would actually use the more controlled brush tip instead. Also, I'm noticing that on these fine point, these thinner point brush ones, the ones with the flamingo, the first ones, I'm noticing the lids are way easier to get on in a heartbeat. I would actually, this is controlled enough, I would use this instead of that bullet nib or whatever, because this works just as well. Yeah, so look. This one, that one's really hard to put back on. Let's try, is it the same on this one? Yeah, these are a lot harder to put back on, these bigger ones. That's really kind of annoying. Oh, I got a blister. Too much coloring lately. My finger. You know you're an artist when you got like ink all over your hands and calluses and blisters. So I guess I'm going to just grab one more of these big ones. We can try one more paper. I'm sure it'll be the same, but let's go to the Eriy paper. No, I just don't want to worry about bleeding through any more pages. Let's go to the Fairy Mythographic paper. I'm going to do two of these. Let's just grab two colors from the bigger ones, the bigger brush tip ones. There's an orange with a nice big juicy brush tip. We did the thinner brush tip here. And let's just get her arm. Now you can, this does feel a little more like you would get with a paintbrush. You can get longer strokes faster because it's a wider and it's a little juicier. Where we'll go back to that, but let's do what's the other color I just pulled? The pink. The pink. Yeah. So that looks very similar almost to that pink I did. It's still a little bit lighter. No, I think I only did one layer on those. Yeah. Let's go back over with this orange again. Ah! See, it's feeling a little rough. 1, 2. And this is why I generally don't do these bigger areas. See, that looks pretty solid. It's not streaking as much. So I have to say, for a water-based marker, when they generally do streak, one is my technique, is the one direction, 2 layers only, wait till it's dry between, That helps a lot with the streaking, or prevention of streaking. But it's so juicy, then you can get the color down faster, and it's a wider brush tip that is helping a lot. I do not love these sticky lids. The orange of the same one, yeah, see, you just can't quite get that same, like, this is the orange of the first set, sorry. You can't quite get that same juiciness and quickly cover your areas. I definitely would stick with this orange with like little areas of this orange, this finer point brush with the first set with the easy lids. So I'm trying to narrow down which I'd pick if you could only pick one, but like I'm realizing they're both kind of different, like for your purpose. That streaked more because it's a bigger surface we're doing, and of course I only did one. So the finer the brush tip point, the smaller area you want to do, you can get away with like a little, maybe up to like an inch, you know, an inch of areas with water-based markers, with good fluid ones. Let's try another one. Let's try like a red. Ugh. Jeez. This page will be ruined, but that's okay because I don't like it. Let's do this lamp, or whatever this is. 1, 2, 3. Just doing it quickly just to get. Okay. So yeah, that looks, I see a couple of little streaks, but not to the extent you see like big streaking by using a point that's too thin. Dry for a couple seconds. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. One direction. Gosh, I want to take my Tombow. That actually is working really well. My Tombow dual brush pen. Is that what this is? Or is this an alcohol? No, that's an alcohol one. I wanted to compare to my Tombow, but I don't have one. Oh, I don't have one here. So, gosh, I like them both. I can see using them for different reasons. I guess if you are really worried about streaking and you're using my technique, if you can commit to doing areas like this size or smaller, like about with 1-inch areas only, I would go with the ones with the second set with the bullet nib and the longer, wider brush tip. Keeping in mind that the more you do it, the more pressure over time, the end could get a little frayed. If you want a more controlled tip, a controlled brush tip, that's almost like a bullet tip, but longer and pointier in the shape of a brush tip, and you want more control and want to do small areas, which is always what I recommend anyway for water brush markers, or areas you can go over with pencil and that where you don't see any streaks, it looks natural, I would go with these. Or you buy both for 40 bucks, which I guess is what I did, because I was thinking, well, if I don't like one, I could send it back, or I could just keep one. Now that I was thinking they're both the same color, so I should send one back, but now it's like I can't decide because they're doing different things. So you get the idea. The colors are, so this was 77. Here's 77 on this other, the lids are a real pill. Let's do 77 on this one right next to it. Yeah. It's also because the tip is different. There might be more like water in the tip. So it comes across lighter. If you wait a second and go over it again. Yeah, I mean, really, it's the same color. So there are your choices. I am really kind of indecisive if I had to pick one. I like the thinner brush tip that's more controlled on the thin ones. But I'm annoyed that they're same colors in both. I wish that they were different colors. So Basically, they're the same set, different brush for different techniques. So it really depends on what you'd want to use them for. So I hope you learned something in this video. I hope that you can pick up one of these sets and try them. Remember, small areas, 1 inch or less for brush markers. Don't try to do a whole picture in water-based brush markers. It's just too hard. I mean, a little tiny picture you might get in like one of those cute Hig books. Like I got a little book here, Simple Halloween by Alexander Franzesi. Like you can, this is Amazon paper though, right? And if you guys really want, I can test a pumpkin right here on this paper. I'm kind of afraid to, but I'll use an orange. Let's do that. This is standard inexpensive Amazon paper that I would not even touch with water markers. But it's a tiny little pumpkin. We can do one panel at a time. Let's use the bigger, wider brush tip on the second set. And let's just do one side. The trick to this paper is quick, one direction of course, quick and small areas. And also, if you hold it more of an angle instead of pointed, you're not going to put much pressure on the tip, okay? It's definitely drier, definitely streaking a lot more than the last two papers. But I could do it real quick and leave it. Obviously, it's going to bleed right on through because it's the thinnest paper in the world. Let's just do this side since we're at it. This would not look as decent with the other tips than the more narrow ones because you can't get as much surface even on a small area at once unless you're doing little tiny things. Really wavy. The paper is not just textured, it's wavy. Like it starts to bend and warp the paper. It's another reason you don't use, like if I run my hand over it, it's like going woo, like a hump. If you were going to try water-based markers at all on the basic inexpensive Amazon paper, I would do one coat and go over with pencil after it's dried after about 10-15 minutes. It looks like I use an alcohol marker. You see that? Because it will bump. So let's just do it one more time. This one's definitely dried. Do I have an orange? I don't have an orange pencil here, but yeah, it's real bumpy. Like it's warping the paper. Oh, and it's starting to get almost like it's going to tear through. I could see a little paper, almost like a tiny hole forming. Yeah, so I wouldn't even do a second coat when you're doing water. If you do water brush mediums on basic Amazon paper, I would do the single coat, let it dry, and do a pencil that's 1 to 2 shades darker is what I would do. So yeah, that's why I don't tend to do water-based mediums on here. Now, if I were to take my orange alcohol marker, of course it's going to bleed through, but it's going to leave the paper smooth. This is a Copic again. This one's running out of ink. I've been using it incessantly lately for Halloween. But look, I can keep going over it without even letting it dry first. And all it's doing is kind of blending. It's not doing anything bad. You know, and if the water-based markers are going to bleed through anyway on the basic cheap Amazon paper, then you might as well do alcohol marker. They're all going to bleed through. But the difference is, feel the paper? Feels exactly the same. It's smooth, straight across the Copic. This one, it's like lumps and valleys and canyons. This one, halfway there. So eventually your paper will, if you do a whole page, it's going to look like this. So yeah. So hopefully you guys learned something and enjoyed it. Hope you found something that might work for you. And if not, that's fine too. I'll link all these products below, including the books. And let me know what you think or if you're going to try it. And